What is up, everybody? Welcome into Crushing Fantasy Football. I am Bryce Lockridge, your host of the show. All right, guys. I know I haven't gotten to you in the last week and a half. I apologize for the inconsistency, but at the end of the day, I'm just not able to be as consistent as some of the other fantasy content creators because I have a lot of other things going on in my life other than this channel, and it isn't my full-time job. But what I can promise you guys is this. When I do give you content, it's going to be high-quality content. No filler content. Everything's going to be very fantasy relevant and be aimed towards helping you win your league. So while I might not be as consistent as some of the other content creators, I'm definitely going to be producing better content than most. So today I have something I felt like I really needed to talk about, and that is 5 players that I think you need to sell high on like right now. This includes players that are coming off either a great performance this past week or a string of great performances. And so you might not want to sell them when you look at them, but I have very good reason to believe that they are not going to continue their current level of production. And right now you can get them at their peak value and get a way better player in return. So I'm going to start right here with the first player on my list, and that's Josh Jacobs. Now, his yards per carry efficiency has been terrible. It's been so freaking bad. But he has been getting crazy volume. He's seen 52 touches in the past 2 games. This is all great. He had a touchdown in each of the last 2 games. But let's be honest with ourselves. Josh Jacobs does not have high touchdown upside. I don't see him scoring more than 7 touchdowns this season. I really don't. Even touching the ball this much, this dude has to get lucky to score touchdowns because he very rarely breaks a run of more than 5 yards because the offensive line isn't good. Teams are stacking boxes because they don't take Jimmy Garoppolo seriously as a downfield threat as far as passing the ball. And if it weren't for touchdowns in these last 2 games and some pretty decent target share out of the backfield, this dude will have looked like one of the worst fantasy running back busts of any running back in the NFL this season. But pass catching out of the backfield has saved him a little bit, and a touchdown in each of the last 2 games has saved him a little bit. But if you look at the game where he had his biggest target share, it was whenever Jimmy Garoppolo's backup was playing. I don't even remember the guy's name because he's that irrelevant, but whoever Jimmy Garoppolo's backup is, he targeted Josh Jacobs 11 times out of the backfield because he's probably an even worse passer than Jimmy Garoppolo. And so naturally they were checking the ball down a lot just to be safe. But most games, Josh Jacobs sees 5 or 6 targets. This is not enough of a target share to make up for the fact that he's running the ball so inefficiently. Last night, his efficiency was saved by a 24-yard run. And like I said, he got lucky and scored a touchdown because the team had the ball on the 2-yard line, and he just kind of fell into the end zone. I don't like his long-term perspective this year. I love the player. I love the talent, but I don't like the offensive line. I hate the quarterback downgrade because now teams are stacking boxes. Jimmy Garoppolo, like he does to pretty much any fantasy-relevant player on his team, has ruined their fantasy value. This is always going to happen if Jimmy Garoppolo is your quarterback. You need to sell high on Josh Jacobs while you can. Next player on my list is going to be DeAndre Hopkins. 11 targets, 8 catches, 140 yards. This is awesome, right? He's coming off a great game, but this was his first game with double-digit targets. Now, obviously, he was a little bit more banged up in previous weeks. I'll give you that. He's probably going to see more games this year where he sees double-digit targets. But when you look at it, you got to ask yourself, is this not DeAndre Hopkins' absolute weekly ceiling? I mean, 8 catches, 140 yards. That's about the best week he's going to have in this Titans offense. He doesn't have very good touchdown upside because the offense is bad, right? He's not going to see double-digit targets every week, and the explosive plays really aren't there for him like they used to be because he's not in his prime anymore. He's not quite as fast as he used to be, and he's in a bad offense. So the explosive plays are going to be few and far in between. The double-digit target games are going to be there, but that's not going to be a reliable weekly thing, and he does not have any touchdown upside. So I would sell high on DeAndre Hopkins. This is his weekly ceiling. You're selling him at his peak value right now, so sell the 22-point game, sell the name value. Get rid of DeAndre Hopkins while you can because you're not going to like him this year. Next player on my list is going to be Zach Moss, 33 fantasy points. What in the world happened in this last game? He just went absolutely crazy, and I don't think anybody expected that when Jonathan Taylor came back. But look, this was Jonathan Taylor's first game back with the team. There was all kinds of drama in training camp. He wasn't there consistently. We come out this season and, he's not playing the first 4 weeks of the season. He's not practicing. So you can't really expect him to get a full workload in his first game. I assure you that as the season goes along, we're looking at more of a 60-40 split or a 70-30 split between Jonathan Taylor and Zach Moss, with Jonathan Taylor getting that larger split. So despite what you saw this last game, Jonathan Taylor is still the lead back in this backfield, I can assure you. And as the season goes along, we're going to see that. Zach Moss had what will probably be the best game of his entire career, scoring 33 fantasy points. So I'd go ahead and sell him right now while he's at his peak value. Next player on my list is going to be Sam Laporta. We got a guy who had 2 touchdowns on 4 targets in this last game. That was with no Amon-Ra St. Brown and no Jahmyr Gibbs. He's still not really getting that good of target share, right? He had that one game where he had 11 targets, and he's the tight end 1 in fantasy right now. He's been very good, but I think that he's going to crash and burn as far as overall production. His touchdown rate's unsustainable. He's not really necessarily been a target hog. He's just been extremely efficient with his targets, right? So when Amon-Ra St. Brown comes back and Jahmyr Gibbs is back in the lineup, I don't see Sam Laporta getting a good enough target share to sustain this kind of production from a season-long standpoint. Right now, I think he's at his peak value, and that's the best time to sell a player in fantasy. So coming off this huge week, I would actually sell Sam Laporta. He's been very, very good, but I would try to upgrade him into a significantly better player if you can. Next player on my list is going to be Gabe Davis. 4 weeks in a row, Gabe Davis has scored a touchdown. He's coming off his first 100-yard receiving game. This dude is at his peak right now as far as value, so I would go ahead and try to sell Gabe Davis. And right now you can get a lot for him. And this is a guy who is not going to get consistent target share in the Buffalo offense, right? He's going to come out and most games he's going to see 5, 6, or 7 targets, somewhere between 5 to 7 in that target share range. And that's really not what we want in any starting wide receiver in our lineup. In today's fantasy football, starting wide receivers in your lineup, even your wide receiver 2 should be getting like 9 or 10 targets a game because target share has just flown through the roof for these wide receivers. Gabe Davis just doesn't get that kind of target share. So while he isn't an elite offense and he is a big play threat, he's just going to give you too much weekly volatility, and that's not how you win in fantasy. You want consistency, right? So sell Gabe Davis high right now. He's coming off what's going to be one of his better performances of the year, and trust me, he's going to have those huge spike weeks, and you're going to hate yourself for getting rid of him at that point. But he's only going to have like 2 or 3 of those weeks for the rest of the games this season, most likely, and he's going to have a lot of bust weeks, and he's going to have more bust weeks than boom weeks, right? So I would sell high on Gabe Davis right now. He's not really someone you want to have in your lineup every single week. He's awesome for best ball, but just for everyday formats, I think it's best to just sell him because you're not going to get that kind of consistency out of him. He's been good 4 weeks in a row. He's due to kind of regress a little bit negatively. So I would sell Gabe Davis while you can. All right, guys, I know these players have been really good recently, but that's exactly why we want to sell them because they're not going to continue their level of production. So I would go ahead and sell these guys, upgrade them massively before they plummet because I really think that all these guys are about to plummet as far as what they've been doing so far. Anyway, I don't necessarily think they're going to be terrible. I just don't think they're going to sustain the level of production they've had. So right now their value in the trade market is just better than their actual value. So that's when we want to sell guys. Sell these players. Yep. All right, guys. Appreciate you tuning in. Catch you later.